because that message was followed by a message from a crying girl who was just telling me, I'm sorry, don't worry about my brother. It's okay. You don't owe me anything. Which was then followed by another message from the brother screaming at me, telling me, I'm coming for you. You're going to take responsibility, you son of a... Yeah, and I mean, it was... It was a joke, right? It's a joke. It's really, it better be a joke. So I called everybody I knew. No one knew what I was talking about. So I called back the 3 worst offenders, who were my 3 best friends, Rusty, Andrew, and Scott. And I was like, Russ, buddy, dude, it's awesome. You got to tell me right now, like, did you do this? And Russ is like, I agree. It's hilarious. I don't know anything about it. I swear to you, I don't know a thing. So I call Andrew, same thing. Buddy, I don't know about this one. It wasn't me. And that just left Scott. And I'm begging him. I'm like, Scott, please tell me, did you do this? Is this you? I need to know right now. And Scott says, Sam, I promise you, I don't know anything about it. It wasn't me. It wasn't a joke. I had a kid. And even worse, I had Genevieve standing there wondering just how had I managed to become a father 10 months into our relationship. And yes, Genevieve and I had been together for 10 months, but we had only been committed for 8. And technically, I hadn't cheated. What had happened was, it was Halloween weekend. My boss was having a big party. Genevieve and I had these coordinated costumes. It was a really big deal. We went all out. We had these matching costumes, and 5 minutes before I was going to leave to pick her up, she calls me and says, I'm sick. I can't go. And I'm like, you can't do this to me. And she goes, I'm sorry. And the thing was, she wasn't sick. She'd been up in Santa Barbara at a Halloween party partying all night, and she was hungover. And I was pissed. Coincidentally, that afternoon, I had come home unexpectedly and found this girl, Bernadette, who I used to kind of hang out with, and she was sitting on the couch with my roommate, Paul. And this is how I found out Paul had been taking my phone book when I wasn't around and calling girls I used to sleep with in an effort to sleep with them. And so, that got really awkward. And Bernadette, she had no interest in Paul, but, when I met Genevieve, I kind of disappeared. And when she got Paul's call, she came looking for me. And the 3 of us had a very few awkward minutes together. Genevieve left. Paul and I had a little conversation about some, do's and don'ts. And then I went into my bedroom and found a note sitting on my bed that was basically just a Post-it note with Bernadette's phone number on it and a lipstick kiss. A couple hours later, Genevieve cancels on me. And instead of going to my boss's Halloween party in half of a costume, I went to Bernadette's. And I hated myself for it. It ate me alive. And the only saving grace I had, the only thing I had going for me was Genevieve and I weren't committed. We hadn't said those words. We didn't say I love you yet. And maybe most importantly, we hadn't slept together yet. But now I had a kid. And I had to tell Genevieve, and she had to hear words that she was praying she would never, ever have to hear in her life. And as I started talking, she just collapsed in on herself, and she just kind of fell in and stopped breathing, and her fists just balled up, and we just sat there in total silence when I was done. And when she finally spoke, she just said, "I'm leaving." And she did. Scott's girlfriend, Pam, lived in our building, and Genevieve went and spent the night down with her, and I spent the night just smoking myself sick, terrified, because, you know, I had a kid, I was a production assistant, I made a couple $100 a week, and I didn't know, how am I going to pay for, like, food and diapers and nannies and doctors and clothes? And it was just, I was getting bombarded with all of these thoughts, and you know, I didn't have Bernadette's phone number. I'd gotten rid of my phone book and Post-it notes, so I called Paul, and Paul didn't have the, you know, he's like, "Oh, I got the number from you." And I was like, it was awful, and I just spent the night, you know, somewhere out there, I had a kid, and I didn't know if I had a boy or a girl, or if they had a name, and I'd lost Genevieve, and I just rotted away all night. And it was sometime around dawn that the door opened and Genevieve came back, and we were just standing there in that horrible, horrible silence, just staring at each other, because what do you say? What can you say in that moment? And the phone rang, and I just thought, it's the brother. And I answered it, and it wasn't. It was Scott. And he goes, "Dude, what happened? What happened?" I just talked to Pam, and she said, "You guys are breaking up and Genevieve's moving out." And I told him, I said, "Dude, I told you last night. I have a kid and Genevieve's leaving me and my whole life is coming apart." And Scott goes, "Dude, it was a joke, man. It was just a joke." I begged him to tell me. And I just looked at Genevieve and I said, "Oh, everything's cool. It's just a joke. We're all good." And then I had to go take a shower and leave for work. I was finally able to get Genevieve on the phone a couple of days later, and I was trying to apologize. I was trying to say something that would make this all right. And that's when she told me, she said, "I knew it was a joke." She knew. She said Scott had called her when he made it, the messages, and he didn't want her to worry. But when I got scared, she got scared, and she knew something was wrong, and she needed to know what it was, and she found out.
No.
Starting from here, my head is where I feel numb. From the front of my neck to the base of my skull, taking it back by the way my mind is working. Like that, my emotion, my control is always shaking. So no, it'll be nothing at all. My mind is like an empty hole. I wanna be calm for help, but all my friends are like a pressure valve. And what I need is salvation and a little bit of patience. Oh, with all the love I have, I'm still alone. Something I would never wish upon anyone. There's feeling something I would never wish upon anyone. Understated side with the feelings that are associated with the sad life that I'm bringing. The tears and the singing. Being alive isn't a gift when there's so much you have missed and so little ringing true. But the words to you are the people you trusted when it all came down to
Now approaching midnight.
In 1972, Becker and Fagan moved to L.A. to become songwriters and joined with guitarist Denny Diaz and Jeff Skunk Baxter, drummer Jim Hodder, and singer David Palmer to form Steely Dan, taking the name from the book Naked Lunch. Their debut album, Can't Buy a Thrill, was released in 1972, spawning hit singles Reelin' in the Years and Do It Again. All things Steely Dan. Info, music, and more are on iHeartRadio, keyword Steely Dan.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Mike Rutherford to discuss that even though there were generational difficulties, his father was always quite supportive.
You know, you've got to understand, I'm sure it's the same over here, but in the UK, in England, you know, that generational change from my father's era to my era, you know, he was the English Empire days, 2 world wars. It was hard to communicate. There was a big divide between us. It's just there was no dialogue, really. You couldn't discuss things because there was no sort of platform to share conversations on. But no, he was supportive, and in a way, you know, given that he hadn't got a clue what I was doing, you know, what parent did in those days, you know, music, long hair and a guitar, he was given that. He was very supportive.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Mike Rutherford and all your favorite artists.
Go ahead, favorite the show, and enjoy AD on the go. iHeartRadio presents AD.
We are fortunate enough today to be joined in the studio by Sam Feirstein. Incredible. See how I did that, Funkhauser? Yeah. Wait, did I get it wrong now?
No, you got it right.
See? Like, it's one of those things where it's just like if you're driving close to a wall and you're worried about hitting it, inevitably you're going to drift closer to it and stand more chance of hitting it. But yeah, no. See, I pronounced the name right, and that's impressive because we all just kind of had our minds blown all over our faces by Sam Feirstein's storytelling abilities and skills. I have so many questions for you. Like, is that like when you, because you're part of a storytelling scene that seems to have sprung up in the last couple of years. Is this correct? Would you say that it's sort of come to prominence in just the last couple of years, certainly in and around LA?